Hello, welcome to Sterlo's Wrap.
Oh, straight rhythm!
Bang, take advantage of it.
Oh, stand and applaud!
It's a stupid question.
It's not!
I have far greater expectations of you than that.
Oh, yes! He's gone all the way!
Now, he's popular, he's a great leader, he's the mentality of this football team.
Oh, and another one from Cleary!
Well, it doesn't get much better, does it?
Absolutely outstanding, and the finish is just as good!
It's rugby league, isn't it?
Hi there, welcome to Sterlo's Wrap of Magic Round. There is a bit to talk about after a big weekend up in Brizzy. Still feeling the love, the magic?
I'm tired, mate. No, I really enjoyed it. I
think there's a few people who are going to be pretty tired after Magic Round, after seeing the way that people enjoyed themselves, Pete.
It was a great concept and one that I think, is going to be permanently on the calendar now. The thing I really liked, and I had heard about it before I arrived, that how many different jerseys there were around. When I got to Brisbane Airport, the whole 16 clubs were covered, as well as English Super League clubs. There was New South Wales and country jerseys in there as well. So
I saw an Adelaide Rams jumper.
There you go. I haven't seen one in a decade. So that was, it was really enjoyable. And hopefully, with no COVID in years to come, that the fans can actually get up really close and personal with players and get autographs and those kind of things and just make the experience that little bit more special.
All right, Sterlo's questions. We asked you for them last week. I've got a page full here to throw to the man himself a bit later on. But the big question after the weekend, the crackdown on illegal play, specifically high tackles. How do we analyse what happened over the weekend, given there were 14 sin bins and 3 send-offs? Yeah,
now the dust has settled, Matt, you can sit back and just have a look at what we did see over those 3 days. And look, I've got enough faith in the administration that the overcompensation, which was one word used this weekend, will lessen out, and Trent Robinson, the Roosters coach, will be right when he says there will be a recalibration. I'm all for stronger action, but I would like to think that, as I say, when things do settle down, that if a tackle or contact is not deliberate, is not careless, is not reckless, intentional, same as deliberate.
It's an incidental incident.
That if there's an accidental one, then that will be treated as such. And I think the perfect one for me the weekend that really stood out was this one for Lachlan Burr. Now, I don't think that Lachlan could do anything else. And he gets up expressing that same sentiment. If you have a look, in my opinion, the contact is the armpit. He comes in straight to make the tackle. And obviously Teddy goes down. Now, on back of that decision, the Roosters extended their lead to 8 points. The Cowboys go down to 12 men. And it was game over. I'm sitting at home watching it knowing that the game was over on the back of that decision. One that I don't think Lachlan Burr certainly didn't do it intentionally.
So we had a briefing with Graham Annesley. In fact, we had a couple of briefings with Graham Annesley over the weekend. And one thing that the Commission have determined, that if a player is dropping and is still hit high, they're not going to take that into consideration, because they feel that if a player is positioning himself to make an upper body tackle, they're putting the player with the ball at risk.
Well,
to me, that's misguided. Well, I mean, look, James Tedesco there is falling. If he's upright when he goes into the tackle, Burr hits him around the sternum.
Exactly right. And again, I keep pointing out that nobody tackles low in the game today because the administration or the adjudication of the game has made it so disadvantageous to the defender that once you tackle around the legs, there is no dispensation given to the player to get to marker so that he can get there. A low tackle is a dominant tackle if you do it properly. So you should have time to get to marker and get reset. You tackle a player low these days, they get up, they play the football, you're left on the ground. Your team is completely disadvantaged. You cannot tackle low in the modern game. So the target area is becoming very refined. You can't be penalised to that extent. That was game over. You can't be penalised to that extent for something that I don't think he had any control over. He comes in to make the tackle as you would so many others. Contact was here. We've got to make sure that is catered for with the way that our referees showed discretion in the tackle. I still thought that there was way too much pedantic officialdom on the weekend, and maybe that came back to the 6 agains on a number of occasions, but that's something again that I think will get better. The incidents on the weekend that I have no sympathy for are the ones that happened on the Sunday, where the teams had 5 games to know what was expected of them.
It's hard to fathom what the Dragons players are thinking yesterday. Like, there was so much poor discipline in their defence, and it was obvious to everyone that's seen any footy over the weekend that if you get it wrong, you're gone.
Well,
I mean, the Fui Mono one, what's going on?
There's no reason to go in that fashion, and we saw it in another couple of matches. Leota throwing the arm out.
Maguire?
It was written in stone come Sunday as to what would be expected. So to come out and see those kinds of incidents, if I'm a coach, I'm filthy, especially if I'm Anthony Griffin. Josh Maguire, with all due respect, has a little bit of form in that area. He had to be particularly careful. And the Fui Mayono one, it was just, on a guy running across where he had any area to hit. Yeah. Because he wasn't running the football, the man that, was fouled. They just got it completely wrong. So I have no sympathy for those. I'm happy with the crackdown to the degree we all want to get to the same place, but we still need to have a little bit of discretion in there for incidents that are penalised and fined. That is sufficient for some, and I thought the lock and birth fell into that category.
What about a 5-minute sin bin?
No. I'm not a fan. We've been to 5s and 10s, and then we're working out as to, is this worthy of 5 or worthy of 10? And I think in our game a lot of times we go back. It's almost what's new again is we've been there, we've done that, we had problems with that. I can understand the call for it because that is that nice little period between 10 where you can lose games in that 10-minute period, and 5 might be sufficient. But again, too many changes for me. Let's just keep it at 10 for the time being, see how it works out, and let's just see if the players get the message and we don't have to worry about whether it's worth this or worth that in the bin.
Josh Papali sent off for, I thought it was a pretty ugly shoulder charge, and looks like he's going to miss Origin as a result.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fallout from this weekend, and that's a big part of it. Is Papali just making strong, forceful head with the opponent. I don't think this is a send-off maybe in other times, but this weekend, yes, and I think that'll be maybe a benchmark now from now on as to any contact like that. The reason I didn't really think it was a send-off when I first saw it is because when players hit with their shoulder into the head, it's not a swinging arm. It's when you come in to make that tackle, you are just getting it wrong, and generally when you come in to hit with the shoulder, you don't often get the head.
But I guess, like we said earlier, the league is looking to come down hard on players that are putting themselves in a position where if they do get it wrong, they can cause damage, and that certainly fits that category.
I can live with that one, but again, I give a little bit of discretionary viewing when players come in like that with their shoulder. That it's very different to the stiff arm tackle that does real damage.
Let's talk about the footy, shall we? Speaking of Origin, how good's Tommy Turbo going? He could light up the Origin series for New South Wales. His club I can't believe the way he's come back from serious injury. It's like he's never missed a game. 50 points to 6, Manly blew Brisbane away.
Yeah, he was great, but so was everybody else in this Manly team, and I didn't think he was a better player than Daly Cherry Evans. It's the best game I've seen him play this year, and maybe for quite a period of time. And I think it's Tommy's influence on the whole side that everybody is now playing well because they're confident, they know their roles. And Cherry Evans had a wow of a game, and he set the trend early in this match for the Manly team. When you're talking about Origin football, that's a great sign for Queensland that Daly Cherry Evans is playing some sparkling football at this stage of the year. But the other players I want to give raps to are the young forwards coming through. I thought when Adam Fanua-Blake left that would be a hole that they would really struggle to fill, and they did for a number of weeks. But now with Olakatu coming through, Kepi's been very good. Sipley, Marty Tapau coming off the bench is working, the last couple of weeks also. So we've had a lot of young forwards step up for Manly into that hole that was left by Adam Fanua-Blake, which I thought was a fairly substantial one.
Indeed. Tigers 36, Newcastle 18. we'll talk about the Tigers in a minute, but I read in the papers this morning that Newcastle are going to conduct an internal review, top to toe, from the football staff to the playing staff through to the front office. The CEO, Phil Gardner, has said that they're just simply not competing as consistently and as well as they should, and it's not acceptable.
Well, I've got a tip. I've got some incidents here that once you get these out of your game, you're going to be harder to beat.
Okay.
Now,
maybe you can do the review.
These are unforced errors that immediately lead to tries. Okay, so we've got here, bang, Kurt Mann drops the footy. Soon after that, unfortunately for Kurt, it was a bad period of time, he and Texoy, they collide at the back, try to Tigers. Followed up by this one where the ball comes out from Newcastle, Connor Tracy loses the football. Straight away, Tommy Talau scores in the corner.
Need some Betty Hill music for some of
Texoy
these.
goes up to this one, and Adam Dewey takes advantage of it. So there are 3 tries that come immediately from Newcastle Knights errors. I know they're talking culture and how things are ingrained up there. Honestly, if you cut those errors out, well, straight away there's 18 points that they don't have to worry about. And if you do come up with those errors, defend them better. So, look, there may be more problems up there internally, or people aren't on the same page or whatever. But what I'm seeing from Newcastle is that in this day and age, if you give momentum to the opposition and you come up with errors like that, you're going to get pumped on the scoreboard.
Yeah, they've gone backwards this year in some respects. Joey Leilua, though, Pete.
Well, the West Tigers, I thought, were really good.
Excellent.
And Madge Maguire copped some criticism, or there were some question marks put over the positional changes. Adam Dewey had been his best player in recent weeks. You don't often see a player in great form positionally moved, but they got it right. Moses Mbai, I didn't think offered enough danger out in the centres. Came into 5'8", played beautifully. Adam Dewey went out and he was still able to have a real control in this game despite being a little bit wider. And Luke Brooks' running game came to the fore because those other guys took on the responsibility. And Luke Brooks, best part of his game has always been his running game, and it was there for everybody to see. Let's hope that continues for the West Tigers. What I thought was really good, you mentioned Joey Leilua, was the desperation late from the Tigers. Have a look at the Newcastle break. There's Joey Leilua, who I criticised early in the season at Campbelltown for a lack of effort to get back. Now, he's not the only black jersey who's back there, but this is the effort that makes the difference. Another break made by Newcastle. He chases, as do other jerseys, and he's there just in case. Now, if everybody is of that mindset, good things happen to your football team. So I just thought if I'm prepared to be critical of Joey Leilua early in the year for lack of effort, it was wonderful to see that, and it deserves to be praised because the West Tigers need that kind of effort from all of their players if they're going to make a run up the ladder, and I thought it was a really good performance from them.
Yeah, well, if they play like that in other games moving forward, they'll be super competitive. They've just got to maintain that consistent effort.
Absolutely, and it may well be that Michael Maguire has found the key to his playmakers as to where they need to be.
The early game on Saturday, Raiders 20, Bulldogs 18. One of the better games of the weekend. At half-time, you thought Canberra can't lose this. Well, they nearly did.
Well, they did.
They nearly lost it.
Yeah, the Bulldogs got away to that flyer in the second half, and so much talk about the previous 5 second halves where the Canberra Raiders have been outscored 93 points to 8, and all of a sudden the Bulldogs they look like continuing that trend. And of course, then when the send off happened, you just thought, well, this is a bridge too far because they had momentum, the Bulldogs. I just thought Josh Hodgson's effort in the second 40 made the difference. Now, he's a guy who's been in the headlines for maybe not great reasons, relinquishes the captaincy. There'd been talk of maybe some consternation between he and the coach. He's carried injury.
What do you think about him playing lock?
Well, Ricky Stewart said before the game that this would probably be the case, that when both he and Tom Starling are out there, then they play some good football. He didn't play a minute out of dummy half, Josh Hodgson. He was first, second receiver, but it was his body language and his verbal to his players that you could see he took control. It wasn't Jack White and it wasn't George Williams. It wasn't any of the forwards. It was Josh Hodgson who came out who played that roving role, as you point out, that basically as an extra forward, who really just took control of this game and took it away from the Bulldogs, who I have to say made it easier. They lost their way. The opposition lose a player, they go to the lead. For 3.5 minutes, the opposition had 11 players, and this is what they come up with in that short period. A 20-metre restart and 7 tackles to the opposition. You've got to get that right. And that, unfortunately, for the Bulldogs, was the start of a series of really poor errors. Adam Elliott goes through. He doesn't even know where the football is.
Yeah.
Now, that's so clumsy, and you know, your side pays a huge price for it. Late in the tackle count here. Okay, this is tackle 4. We come down here, and you give away a 6 again penalty when you're 2 behind with 10 to go. Like, that's where you've done the hard work. You know, when you get to tackle 4 and 5, you've done the hard work. You can't give away something to the opposition. So I thought Josh Hodgson was extremely instrumental in helping get the Canberra Raiders home in this game. I thought the Canterbury Bulldogs, they contributed to their demise. You know, they've got young playmakers, but you know, that was a great opportunity. If I'm Trent Barrett, I'm gutted, because I think, you know, he'll look at that and say, well, you know, the game was there for us to take up against a 12-man lineup. We have the lead. We just didn't manage it at all in that last 20 minutes.
Saturday night footy, you saw it here on 9. Roosters 30, Cowboys 16. Super competitive game. Thought the Cowboys were really good in patches, but what about Tedesco? What a performance again.
Well, I don't know if he's reacting to all of the talk about Tommy Trbojevic. I'd like to think that to some degree that he is, but we just saw why he's been the best player in the last few seasons. And you know, Coach Trent Robinson, he came out at the end of this game and said that he carried the side. Which is a pretty big statement. And there's just this one little passage of play that when they were under the pump and you know, really under pressure, I just thought this summed up James Tedesco. He brings the ball out, finds Daniel Tupou, and then his involvement is profound. This is a couple of plays later where he's in around the buzzing, around the play the ball here. He bursts through. He's well covered here by Val Holmes and Kyle Felt.
What about the ball?
Shows great strength and awareness to find Angus Crichton. And in that short period where he just involved himself wherever the football was, and then to throw the final pass to basically, I thought, wrap up the game at that moment. You know, that's the influence that James Tedesco had, and it was the reason that Trent Robinson was so glowing in his praise for his fullback. But we see that every week. I just think that, you know, so much talk about Tom Trbojevic and Ryan Pappenhausen and you know, the other great number ones. We just saw on the weekend why James Tedesco will be the New South Wales fullback.
And probably New South Wales captain as well.
Yes.
Sunday afternoon, Parramatta 34, Warriors 18. This was a really entertaining game, particularly the second half. Warriors had no ball in the first half, and they got a bit of ball in the second half. And they had the momentum when they got back to within 10.
This got tight.
Yeah.
Tighter than the scoreline suggests, because there's a late try, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But you say there was no football for the Warriors in the first half. They had to do a lot of defence. 24-0 at one stage. They scored not long before half-time, made it 24-6. I thought Parramatta got a little bit ragged in that second half, and I don't think Brad Arthur would be particularly impressed with the second 40 minutes at all. But the Warriors, you know, they're a dangerous football team, and when you give them some ball, they've got guys who can hurt you. I think, you know, one of the best good news stories out of the weekend was the fact that Jacob Arthur comes into this game under difficult circumstances, because he was part of the bubble, so he couldn't really train with the players coming into this game. Now, yes, he's trained with them during the course of pre-season and in recent weeks, but this try here, which wrapped it up for the Eels and extended that lead, you just see that the joy on everybody's face, certainly his own, but his teammates. He's a popular young man.
Looks a player, Pete.
He's got some qualities about him. He looks unruffled, and this is Dad. And that's great. Now, he would be doing that for any try at that stage, but to see your son do that, and the Parramatta fans, they knew how significant that moment was. It was wonderful. I'm a little bit biased maybe, but that was just a great moment from the weekend. The other thing I liked about Jacob, we spoke here last week about, you know, him coming into the side in our preview, and I said that they'll keep it very, very simple for him. His first touch, he took on the responsibility of kicking the football. His second touch, he took the line on. And I thought they were great signs. That gets you into the game straight away. It's not relying on Mitch Moses or Clint Gutherson to, allow me to sort of edge into the game. He grabbed it by two hands, and from that moment on, he just looked really comfortable there. But he's got some quality about him, and I like his demeanour. He certainly didn't get flustered out there at all.
So Mum didn't want to let him play earlier in the week.
Well, it's...
Dad asked Mum, what do you think? She says, no, not my boy.
Well, I think she'll be much more confident after seeing a pretty nice performance, first game in the NRL. I think she'll have less concerns from here on in.
Sunday afternoon footy here on 9 yesterday. Melbourne 44, Dragons 18. We spruiked Nico Hines in the pre-game because it was a great chance for him to shine in a Melbourne team that was missing some star quality, of course, with Munster and Grant and Smith, and he did.
He did, and that was a little bit of a surprise because when Ryan Pappenhausen made himself available, became available, I kind of just assumed that the specialist 5'8", Riley Jacks, would continue in that role because he had the number 6 on his back and was named there. But that didn't happen. Tyson Smoothie actually came out as a starting hooker, and Nico Hines went to 5'8". And we said before the game, you watch Nico Hines play, he's got that 5'8" sort of player about him. You can see it in him. He's a good ball player. He's got good speed and he's got great awareness. And I thought he was the best player on the field. This was, for 50 minutes, this was a really competitive game. The Dragons threw a lot at the Melbourne Storm, who struggled at times to put up with it. A lot of ball movement, and that moved the Melbourne defence around. And then last half hour, obviously that extra man, they were able to take advantage of it. Just a little play like this here. He makes that so easy for Felice Kafusi to come back on the inside. The one thing you want to do, Matt, when you bring a player back on your inside is never take the sight of the ball away from him. And Felice Kafusi could see that all the way through to catch it on his chest. And I just thought, if you're an opposing NRL club, I'm not quite sure. That's Cooper Cronkish, isn't it? We've seen that before. It puts it on the chest with that little wide kick.
But if you're a club looking for a half...
If you're looking for...
Well, a good player.
A versatile player who is best suited, I think, at fullback.
Right.
But you could play 5'8" without any problems whatsoever.
But you get a player that's come through the Melbourne Storm.
Yes.
I mean, there's not too many that have left Melbourne, gone to other clubs and not improved the club that they've arrived at.
Now, I'm not sure what his contractual obligations
I think he's off at the end of this year.
Melbourne Storm. But the secret to the salary cap is to buy value for money. Now, he's adding to his value every week, is Nico Hines, but you still are getting him at a good price. He's only going to get better. And it would be astute buying, I think, if you were able to get him to your club or to a club that are in need of a number one, but somebody who can play 6, who can play 3 or 4, who can play anywhere for you, and has come through a great system.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get offside with the Melbourne Storm in farming out their players, but if I'm at another club and I'm looking for a particular type of individual that's going to cost the right price, Nico Hines might just be the man.
Indeed. Other results, Rabbitohs 32 over the Sharks 22. Latrell's back for South this week, and boy don't they need him because they're being less than convincing at the moment. They play Penrith in Dubbo.
Yeah, they've got a big lead in this one, and just the Sharks credit, they got back into the contest, but no, it was only ever going to be one winner in this one. Get him back, you get Cameron Murray back, and they start to look like that, football team that we were so impressed with earlier in the year. Both those sides got pumped last week. South Sydney have come out and put up a big scoreline here. They did let the Sharks back into it. The Sharks, I think, now have lost 5 in a row. Yeah. And confidence very low.
And Panthers 48, Titans 18. Ivan Cleary not happy with the last 15 minutes of that game where the Titans ran in a couple of softish tries, but Nathan Cleary, another masterclass from him. And that brings us to our questions for Sterlo segment. Okay. I'm going to ask the first one. I'm going to ask the first one. Please don't misquote me here. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying.
That's not the way to preface
I'm not saying that Nathan Cleary is as good as Andrew Johns. But
no, he's not.
If you watch the way he is developing, the way he is playing, there is so much Andrew Johns about the way he plays the game. Great defender, pulls the strings, great tactical kicker. Seems to be 2 steps ahead of everyone else. The more you watch him, the more he's moulded into that complete player, a la Andrew Johns.
A la. The development has been profound. He was put into pressure situations early in his career, and That's difficult for young playmakers. And there was some criticism around him. He got thrown into Origin early on. But you can see how that's enhanced his game. Now, put in those situations and you go back into pressure situations and you handle them better if you've been there before. I love the way that he understands his own game. He understands the game in general. But he understands what tempo is in regards to the development of a game. He plays fast when the side needs it. He slows games down when the side needs it, and he gets that, and he brings that into his own game as well. He's got a good running game, but he only produces it at the right time. He'll often start slow in moving across the field, and then bang, put the foot down, throw the dummy, the show and go. He's dangerous. He's always throwing something up. But the Penrith side play that way. The Penrith side throw plenty at the opposition, and Nathan has worked out how to be a part of that, to control it all, but still not have anything negative in his own game. Now, he has said that early on he didn't have a particularly good attacking kicking game. Now, if you're looking for a 6-a-game restart, I'm pretty confident that 9 times out of 10 he's going to get that for you. So you're talking about Andrew Johns had the complete game. He had all of that. Nathan Cleary is making rapid strides to becoming, if not the best player in the competition. I think he's the best and most consistent number 7. But the best is yet to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's the great sign. He's a young man. He's going to play a lot of football at the highest level, and he will just continue to develop. But everything is there now. He's got the basis for everything. He kicks well, he tackles well, and he understands the game so that he knows what is needed at a particular time, and the side around him, they're loving it.
It's a very good answer.
It was a long one, sorry.
Question here from Penguin Gaming. Hello, Penguin.
Graham Bradley, Penguin, played for Illawarra.
Great to have you with us, Penguin. If you're creating a roster for the new Queensland team and you could have a pick of any of the players in the competition, who would you build the club around and why? You might have just answered that.
Nathan Cleary. I think the other guy, because he's a Queenslander, would be Cameron Munster. Mm-hmm. I think he's quirky, but he's up there with the most dangerous players in the competition. And I think that
he said he's interested in going back to Queensland.
Well, he'd be someone that would be on my shopping list. But yeah, look, I think Cleary. You're looking at somebody in a key position who has a lot of different attractions, and to me, probably Nathan Cleary heads that. But I see a lot of attraction in Cameron Munster as well in seasons to come.
Gary Maloney. G'day, Gary. Sterlo, who was the best player you played with and why?
I'm going 2 players. One that I played with consistently.
Both number 6s?
Both number 6s. Yeah. Firstly, I had the honour of playing alongside Wally Lewis in representative teams, and Wally was one of those players that his greatness was that in the most pressured situations he would come up with the play that was difficult, but he made look easy. Now, if you have a look at some of the things he did for Queensland and in an Australian jersey, in pressure situations, he wanted the football, he got the job done, but and as I say, it was a difficult situation, but somehow you look at it and thought, well, gee, didn't he make that look easy? The other guy I have to throw in is Ray Price, and well, I'm going to throw Brett Kenny in as well for different. Ray Price is the most competitive player I ever played with, left no stone unturned in his own pursuit of excellence. Brett Kenny, the most naturally gifted player I've ever seen. You just threw him the football and stood back and watched in awe to what he could do. One of the great movers. The guys are almost like poetry when you watch them. Steve Rogers, Brett Kenny, they almost glided across the ground. But good defenders, great hands, and just difficult propositions. So, I know we only wanted one, but I'm throwing Lewis, I'm throwing Price, I'm throwing Kenny in the mix.
I'm wondering whether next week we should get you to name the best team out of players you played with.
Easy one. Could do that.
Beautiful.
I'd have 39 players all up, obviously.
We can have 18 now.
Okay, well, I'd have 54 then, wouldn't I?
Sterlo, can a team from outside the top 4 make it to the grand final this year?
I think, yes. I think 5 teams.
Really?
Yeah, I'm throwing my old club in. So, Penrith, Melbourne, I think the Roosters, despite the fact they've got so many stars, when Luke Keary went down, you thought, well, how are they going to cover that? If they've got close to the healthy roster that they can at the end of the season, then I think they're right in the mix. Great great coach, understand finals football, understand what it takes. So I'm putting them. I think South Sydney are going to have a lot to offer in the second half of the season. I think.
He's got a sense of timing about him as a coach,
Well,
doesn't he?
exactly. You know, he's Bart Cummings, isn't he? You know, you don't win a Melbourne Cup first lap, and he knows how many miles you've got to put in the legs and what kind of form you've got to be going into the race in. And I think South Sydney will be very well served there. And I'll throw Parramatta into the mix.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, they've already beaten Melbourne this year. They've beaten the Roosters. Again, it comes down so much to the health of your roster. And if Parramatta have their best one going into finals football, and maybe a couple of other clubs don't, then I think we've seen that they are a much more resilient football team this year and are winning games that I think they might have got beaten in last year. So in answer to the question, I think it's possibly down to 5, and who knows, maybe we'll get a late charge from somebody else.
Well, there you go. Sterlo doesn't believe it's down to Penrith and Melbourne like a lot of people are trying to tell us after 10 weeks of the comp.
And again, I'll keep saying it.
Injuries?
You've got to have your key men playing well at the right time of the year, and maybe those clubs that are sort of in some people's minds out of contention, maybe they might be the healthier ones at the end of it. You know, it might be South, it might be the Roosters who actually have their best players there when it really does count.
And the final question is from P. Vorton.
P. Vorton.
Who says, can we bring back the footy show on Thursday night?
This should be good. That's an unusual
Are you
question
available?
from P. Vorton, because I did all the work and he got all the money, and he never liked work at the best. He's always been a shift worker. People mention work, he'd shift. So I think that's a bogus email or question that's been sent in.
That's very good.
P. Vorton,
I like this question, this little question section.
We'll have a bit of fun
down
with
the
that.
bottom. So whack your questions down there and we'll pose the best ones to Sterlo next week. Look forward to chatting to you then, my friend.
Thanks, Matt. Have a good week.